have as escrow officers Yvonne Santamaria, Sandra Velasco, and I have Marianne Washington. The topic for today, I want to be collaborative. The topic is title and escrow. And even though you might know what title and escrow is, I'm hoping that we can go through the topic and be interactive, ask questions. There might be some things that have come up during your time as a realtor that you might want to clarify. And gosh, when I bought my home, I had no idea. I just signed my papers, right? I really didn't know what title and escrow is. But now I'm in the business. I was at Costco maybe 4 months ago, and I had my name tag on. I was getting a tire fixed, and this gentleman sitting on the bench kept kind of looking at my name tag, and he finally said, "Can I ask you a question?" I said, "Sure." And he said, "I think I have title insurance. I've owned my home for about 30 years. And I took the time to tell him that, he was protected for his investment back, and I actually felt happy to know. And he was embarrassed to ask, but that's why we're here today, to cover a topic that we might all know and think we know everything, but I'm doing things a little bit differently today. So in your packages that I brought, these are all flyers that we have. They're marketing flyers that we have. We want you guys to be the best realtors out there. And we just talked about how much change is coming. So let your partners in title help you. And I'm giving you these flyers. We're going to go through a few of them, but there's some extra ones in there because all your clients are different. They all have different personalities. They all have different education. They all have different questions. And some of them are more involved, and other ones are pretty simple. So I brought these to you today, but we're going to go through the first one on there, which is what is title. We're going to cover escrow as well, but please just stop me and ask a question, even if you think it might not be a basic question. Just ask, because you never know what can come out. And I have a few things to share that hopefully you guys can take back with you in your day. And we want you to look sharp out there. We want you to be able to talk about this in front of your clients. And I do know a few realtors who use title insurance as a way to leverage and get those buyers and make the buyers feel confident about the buying process. So let's get started. So first of all, I know one person who might be able to tell me, but can anybody just tell me what they think title insurance is? Jerry's looking at his phone. Just kidding. Well, it is title insurance. Let's just go through it. So, why do we need it, right? When your buyers are buying their home, the goal is to ensure a property free and clear of any liens and judgments from the seller to the buyer, right? And it's a one-time purchase. It's on the car contract. It gives your clients peace of mind. So let's talk about it. So title insurance makes sure there are any defects in your land's title are found and correct before any transaction closes. This is to ensure you own all rights to the property after purchase. So this assures that the buyer, that they're acquiring a marketable piece of land, right? And the seller is in that transaction with them because they're selling their property to them. It eliminates risk, right? That any risk for your buyer, so it's peace of mind for them. And we're going to go right into, and that's why it's important, right, to have. And it protects you guys too. And this is one of the things I bring up because it's peace of mind for you as well. Your buyers are making that investment, and you represent them. And you want to work with a larger underwriting company. And there are quite a few of us out there, but we are one of the larger title companies, and we have enough backing to support any of those issues that come up during a transaction. So let's talk about who's covered. Does everyone know that there's two different types of policies? Okay, this comes up a lot of the time. So you've got the owner's title policy, which is for the buyer, the owner who owns the home, protects them. But on top of that, there's a lender title policy. So if the buyer is buying with a loan, the bank is going to require a lender's title policy. Some of the times I get a phone call from the buyers and they'll call up and say, I just want the lender's title policy because I'm gonna borrow money and I want it to protect me. You know, it actually protects the lender because they're the one lending the money. And sometimes our buyers don't, especially our first-time home buyers, they don't understand any of that concept. So there are two policies. One's for the buyer, which is the owner's title policy, and the second is for the lender. And of course, if there's no loan, they won't have to pay for any lender policy.
That's a question, because I always get confused when I'm filling out our demand, for the form that our brokerage has. What is it? Explain to us what the difference is, if there is any, the Alta and the CL. What's the difference?
The Alta policy, which, and that's a future flyer in here, and that's one of the reasons why I put it in there. There is a standard policy, but there's substantial less coverage on it. But in your car forms requires the Alta policy, and that is what we call it, First American or Equal policy. And I think it's a third or fourth flyer on there. I included that in there because it's a great flyer for you to keep. And all these flyers are in your toolbox. And I've actually gave them all to Felicia so she can send them to you electronically because we're all digital these days, right?
So the Alta is for our buyer, when we're representing the buyer?
Yes, yes.
Got it.
Any other questions?
Whoa.
The Alta owner's policy.
ALTA policy of title insurance can be different. The lender's policy is one.
Correct.
There's also a different ALTA policy that covers different coverage, especially for once it's on recorded easements is one of the things they cover. And it's a different policy. If you're buying raw land, you may want to get an ALTA policy because you want to make sure there's no unrecorded easements on it. But you have to have a survey done to get that policy. It's a separate policy. It's a very special policy, American Land Title Insurance, what ALTA stands for.
And based on your underwriting department will make sure that you get the right issuance on your use code as well. Thank you, Terry, because there are other policies for different types of use codes, but there is this, as you say, the CLTA. What we offer is the Alta for the protection of your owner, of the property owners.
So do you offer the homeowners ALTA?
We do. There's a different pricing for it.
That's a different one.
But yes,
And
but
it
yes.
covers some different coverages.
absolutely. That turns into a discussion that was going to come up a little bit later because we do have buyers that are savvy out there and sometimes they start to question and then we start to talk about how we
What's the
down.
difference?
Most of us don't do land.
Right, yeah. I was talking in terms of resale, but definitely when we do deal with a different type of use code, we will have a further discussion on breakdowns and other policy. But for the resale side, we do this CL, it's what is on the car contract. It's standard for us to offer it, and it has the maximum coverage for your buyer.
For CLT?
California Land
Yes.
Title.
Oh, okay.
Do you have a chart for showing different type of
I
policies?
do.
Confused.
I do.
So Lucy, I'm confused.
That's like the third,
Okay, so it shows you
yeah,
what they cover, what they
on the
don't
back.
cover.
That's why I included this one in
You
here.
started to clarify this, and now that you said CLTA, I'm confused again. So when we represent a buyer, which title insurance do we
It's
use
the
with this?
Alta is what's in the car contract. So
Okay.
we offer it, and
Got it.
that is the third flyer, and on the back side,
Oh,
it will have the breakdown.
okay, and
Yeah.
then what's the CLTA?
That's
The land?
the land.
Got it, okay.
So for us, that's.
No.
I always
Alta.
thought it was a seller and
the
a
Alta.
buyer, I'm like,
No.
nobody
Yeah.
explained this to me.
Yeah, and this is good why we're here. And this one flyer,
It's at the
like,
bottom
is
of our
kind of a
form.
nice, right?
Yeah.
But that's why just keep them, you might not have to use them for every client, but
Yeah.
hold on to
Cheat
these
sheets.
because you
Yeah.
have them. They're cheat sheets for you. So let's talk about what is covered, and I do have some other flyers that are gonna go into it in depth, but there's some basic things that we find that come up are anything that might affect title. The records can include, but they're not limited to, problems with deeds, easements, assessments, restrictions on the property, civil probate court records, maintenance agreements, debts, and other burdens. And you're going to see all these things on the prelim, right? So we're back at reading your prelim, right? Just because all of these things will protect your buyer when you're transferring title from the seller to the buyer, but these are just a few of the things that it covers. I have added some other flyers, just a flyer in your packet. That's called 75 Ways to Not Lose Your Home.
Yeah.
And it just does give you an extensive list. You might not have to use it. You might want to add it into your closing packet to make your buyer feel confident. I mean, these are here to help you look good and to make sure you're explaining to the client what they're buying when it comes to insurance.
This is a good way to convince them to, you can represent them as a
Absolutely.
buyer
Yeah,
representation.
absolutely. And we're going to cover some other specific examples that we're seeing a lot more often in title these days. So what if you have a problem? Do I have to lose my property to make a claim? Absolutely not. So, it doesn't hurt you. You're covered for the lifetime. Your buyers are covered for the lifetime they own a home. Even if they're not sure, fill out a claim. It's not going to hurt them to fill out a claim and to send it in. I mean, that's why you purchase the title insurance. And I'm gonna tell you just something that happened. We had a homeowner own the policy for 15 years, and they decided to put a pool in the backyard. And they started to break ground. They got all of they got everything done. The pool people came. They started to break ground on building it, and lo and behold, they found a unrecorded water main underneath. And it was unrecorded from 1906. They put a claim in. We needed to find out what's going on. It wasn't disclosed, of course, at the time of purchase. We came in and took a look, and it was an old water main, wasn't even in use. What we ended up doing is we ended up moving it. So we brought everybody in to do the surveying. We moved it and worked with the pool people so that it wasn't in their plans. It ended up being, I don't even remember what the last dollar bill was, but it was like $29,000. So they were very happy. They utilized their insurance, right? And we just moved the water main, and now they have their pool. So that one was, it was a good ending for that one. And there have been other instances during years where maybe a deed of trust was missed, like a $100,000 deed of trust. If you're in escrow and we cleared it, we transferred title from the seller to the buyer, and it just so happened there was something recorded close to the end of it that got missed, and suddenly the buyer is getting these bills. And again, we missed it. It was recorded right before it closed. We took that. So we took that. We paid off the $100,000, and our attorneys and everyone else, they had to do the digging and find out what happened there. But it was the seller who took money out of their HELOC right before close. But this one was a while back. That won't happen anymore. Banks will not let you draw on HELOCs and things like that if there's a payoff that's been ordered. But it happened, and we just paid for it. And we eventually found the seller, who was in a different state, and he spent the money, and he's paying us back, but we went after him. So, but the buyer, we didn't care. The buyer didn't have to know all that. We just did our job and took care of it. But these are instances where title insurance does, and your clients won't be calling you and saying, hey, what happened? You're covered, you've got title insurance. Okay. And what does it cost? It's in one-time purchase. At the close of escrow, it gets paid. They own it for the life they own the home. But I need to disclose a couple things on this, because many homeowners like to do a couple things. They like to add names on and off title. So if you change who's on title, you will lose that portion, if like percentages, you will lose if you're adding someone on your, yeah. So you purchased it, it's gotta stay the name of whoever purchased it at the time.
What if you put it in a trust after you?
Thank you, Jerry. Call your title, call the title company that insured you, let them know. I know that few have called me, and we can call our underwriting department and they will issue an endorsement.
So it's not automatic.
It is not automatic.
So
And
you
this
buy-
is-
Because we always sell the property to the name of the buyer. We don't put it in the name of their trust.
Correct.
They purchase.
Correct.
So then they put it in the trust afterwards. They have to go back to the title company and say, hey.
I put it into a trust. Can
No,
you,
but how many people are actually doing that?
not very small, right? Very few.
Yeah.
Very few. And we don't, it doesn't cause a problem. It happens all the time when we're buying and selling, right? Oh, it's in the trust. You know, we saw who underwrote for it. But I actually did that recently. I'm going to be honest with you. I have had it in my trust. My house has been in trust since 2008. And I finally called Fidelity up and said, hey guys, can I have an endorsement? And I'm just telling you, yeah, honest, you're right, Jerry.
The other
People don't do
issue
it.
is you borrow money on your property, you take it out of the trust. Okay, now we've transferred title back to the individual. Then you put the loan on, and then you put it back in the trust. Each time we need to get a new endorsement from the title company?
No. It's when you change ownership, not on a refinance.
Huh?
Not on a refinance. You don't have to do
I'm
that.
not refinance, I'm saying you actually change ownership because you take it out of the trust and transfer it back to the owner, individual person. Or persons, husband or wife, whatever. So now it's Mary and Tom as a married couple or whatever are now the legal owner. So we've changed the title, the ownership. Now, we refinance, put a new loan on, because they won't loan to a trust. Follow what I'm
Right,
saying?
of course, yeah.
Now we put it back in the trust.
I would,
Change the title again.
if you did the endorsement originally, as long as you have the endorsement, but I'll tell you that we've had transactions that did not have the endorsement, but it was the same owner's names, and we followed the chain. Our underwriters have no problem just overriding that and handling the transaction. It happens quite often because nobody knows to get that little endorsement
All I'm talking
either.
about is the coverage.
Yes, it does not change your coverage.
But you're saying we have to get an
Same.
endorsement if we take it, put it in the trust after we own the property.
Well, we encourage you to get the endorsement, should I say? It's not gonna stop and have problems as long as we can follow, underwriters can follow the chain and show that it's the same parties, right? It's the same parties, same people involved. It's not, we do encourage it. It's a lot cleaner when you have the endorsement to show that that you are, it's you're the people who are putting it into the trust. So it's just cleaner.
It's a policy to get the
Yeah.
endorsement, but it's not necessary.
Right, exactly.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes, because people don't do it, right? Yeah, but I
Well, you did
encourage. I didn't do it either. I did it late, but it's just, and I bring it up because, again, these are things that you can offer to your clients and have the discussion.
So I do have a question. So the husband is the one on purchasing the home, married, and she does the quick claim at closing, right? So she's not on title, right? So
Right.
then they move into the house. It's their home, because it's California, community property. And at what point do we have her added to title? Because I've heard title say, we'll add her. We'll add her. So did she get added a week later, or does she actively have to go and say, hey, title, you need to add me? Cause I
Well,
just know she signed that it's all
we-
him.
Right, because it's on, yes, we just need disclosure from it will get recorded thereafter. And, the lender has to know, like, most of the time the lender knows. And when that's for us, we just need to make sure everything's transparent.
Yeah,
And, we will prepare. And it has to be recorded after. There are situations, I have to be honest with you, there are situations where people don't take the time, years go by. It's like, oh, I just never got to it, it just didn't put it, yeah. You know, it happens quite often, actually. And
well, it's a
then
good time to remind
sometimes-
your clients too.
to do it,
Yeah.
do it in the beginning,
Yeah.
do it right away. Because you know what happens sometimes too? Relationships change.
Yeah,
You know, then right, and then there's more added to the story here.
yeah,
Yeah, and then now you're making sure that you have them speak to get legal advice that we
Yeah.
can't give.
so do you wait for it
Right.
to be recorded 6 weeks, or do you go ahead and let's get it done and title will just let it catch up?
Get it done.
Right away, okay. Sooner the
But
better.
like, I mean,
Got
here's
it.
the other side of the coin,
Cover yourself.
what if something happens
Yeah.
in the relationship
Yeah,
later?
yeah.
I mean, it's like,
Yeah.
right, it's like you don't
So
never
there
know
is no
what's gonna
plot.
foresee
Okay.
in there.
Perfect.
Okay,
I have a question. Going back to
Okay.
what Chair just said, every time you refi, does it go through title company again?
it will if you're just needing lender title policy. That's just on the lender. Refis are not changing, you're not actually changing ownership from the seller to a buyer, just refinancing.
Okay, when
So
you-
there's no title policy on that, there's a lender policy on that.
Okay, but so you have to buy
Yes.
the policy
No.
every time you?
No, only when you're transferring names from a different seller, a different buyer.
Okay, do we have to take out of trust every time you refi?
It just depends on the lender. I mean, have the conversation with your lender. I've seen lenders have a rider, a trust rider on the deed of trust, so talk to your lender about that.
Same thing is true for HILA.
Absolutely, yes, yes. I know Fremont Bank, they do trust rider, so you don't have to take the name in and out of the trust, for instance. They have, on the deed of trust, you can see the trust rider marked on there. Yeah. Yeah, it is. I know it's been great for me. Okay, I'm selling to Fremont Bank, but that's
Yeah.
right. Yeah, it's been great, easy. I haven't had to deal with any of that.
How do you find out who insured your title?
When you can look, if you go into Ignite, do you have your original paperwork? Okay, or you can go into, if you have the resources, Ignite RE, or go in there and check to see, look at your legal documents in there. Your original grant deed probably has the title company on there.
So you're
Yeah.
saying that a bank like Fremont Bank
Yes.
has a
Yeah.
provision, so you
For a
don't
trust
have
rider.
to take it out of the trust.
Yeah.
They'll just loan the money to the trust.
Absolutely. They just have the little rider clicked in the deed of trust. I was really happy. I always wonder why I didn't have to deal with any of that. And I'm like, oh, and I looked at the documents and I saw the little trust rider on there.
Trusts are so prevalent today, they should, all the.
Yeah, have it on your
Yeah, I agree. I don't know why others don't, but if you know it, then you can ask, isn't there a trust rider you can put in there? Yeah, and then you wouldn't have to do with anything.
So also with RTR, if
Yeah.
it's RTR,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
trust or-
No, yes. The other flyers, this is two types of title policies. It's the next one I know we covered, but these are just samples of some other flyers that we have available. And then we go to the Alta policy, Eagle policy is what we call it, First American. And then it's got the little form in the very back that tells you the comparison of what the standard, a lower policy. There is a lower policy that a buyer can use
When
if
would
they
they
want
use
to
it?
not
When would-
pay.
when would you
Exactly.
recommend that?
You said it, Olga. Why would they do that? So I'm going to ask the question. I know some of you are new, and some of you, you've been doing this for a long time. Have you ever had a buyer question or not want to buy the title policy?
Yeah, it's more not understanding what title insurance is, and you explain it
Right.
to them, they're like, okay, we
Yeah.
want it.
So have you had that experience? Okay.
The buyer says, well, there's no need for it.
until you
Right, and
explain
this
it
is
to
where
them.
and then we get the phone call. I always get a phone call. And this is one of the flyers. I mean, after I show them, they go, well, is there something cheaper? And I said, there is a standard Alta policy that's cheaper, and it's, you know, $300 less. But look at, you know, just don't get the coverage. I mean, I probably don't even get as far as that. I just say that, and they said, okay, no, I'll take the policy.
Yeah.
And so we always end up, when we get those calls at the title company, this is one of the flyers we end up sending out to the buyer. And sometimes it's a conference call with their agent too. I mean, I always have to say, like, who is your agent? Because sometimes I don't know who the buyer's agent is, and I have this conversation, and then I say, I encourage you also, I'm going to give you these flyers, but I would like also for you to have a conversation with your agent. And sometimes I get on the phone after that call, and I call the agent and say, I just want to let you know, did your buyer tell you that they were questioning policy? And they're like, no, I have no idea. So I also sent them the same flyer. So we try to take the extra step. And you know, whether you're on the buy side with us or directing with us, it doesn't matter. I mean, we're out there to help our clients look really good and to give you the tools that you need. Like the 73 ways you can lose your home is, I know a realtor who just puts this in their package, in their buyer's package all the time, because it's got everything covered in here. Okay? I know it's 2 pages worth, and they probably aren't going to read everything, but you will have a client who will read every little thing. Yeah.
Let's assume the escrow closed 2 years ago with a buyer. Now that buyer sells it, they have a new buyer. They insured title 2 years ago. Is there a reduction in price? It used to be.
Is it primary residence?
Yeah.
There is not. But there yeah. We've changed, I think all the title companies have to say we're all regulated by the Department of Insurance. And Jerry, it's a good question. And I am going to be completely transparent. All of us have to file our fees with the Department of Insurance. So if there is a title company that has a special structure where they filed fees that would offer something like that, then we can.
They used to.
Right.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, they used to. But there is something called for investment property. If it's investment property, you can buy a binder. And if you have the intent to buy it as investment property and sell it within 2 years, there is a discount.
Okay.
Yes, so that's
On the
binder.
investment
Yes, but not on primary. We can have that
What's the
discussion.
time period? 5 years?
2.
2 years?
Mhm.
Okay.
Questions at all about?
Does it have to be the same, a title company will give discount or?
Yes, it does. Thank you, TK. It does. It doesn't have to be necessarily the same office. You can use, as long as it's the same title company, it doesn't necessarily have to be the same office. Yes. So we can have that discussion too on a case by case, because every escrow is different, isn't it? So, I hit title. How are we on time? You guys had good questions.
Thank you, Lucy.
Yeah. Let's talk about escrow. I only have one sheet about escrow, but for those of you who are new, we are a neutral third party in handling the transaction. It is my job as a sales rep. So I'm on the sales side, and I help more on the marketing and farming side. But one of the things over the years that I've been doing this is, hey, I've got to learn, right? Because it makes me a stronger rep, and I can go out there and talk about title and escrow. Actually, at one point, they almost wanted to turn me into a escrow officer, and I'm like, I can't sit behind the desk, I know. So, but I try to make myself accessible and available to go through other educational classes. If you want to go through the escrow process, we can do that. We can go through reading a prelim. The one thing I can say about escrow is that you work with me, I get to know, we build a relationship, and it's important to work with an escrow officer that you're going to click with, that you're going to have good communication with, like to communicate like you do, because there's enough stress out there. You guys have we're relearning all these new things, right, with the settlement. Well, let's keep the stress level down on when it comes to the transaction and build that relationship with your escrow people. What's most important is communication. We need to know, we need transparency. We're instruction takers. So, if it's gonna get paid through escrow, we need the invoices. We need to know who's paying for what. If that's the realty experts, the support here at the office here, you guys are great. Getting the term sheets out to us so that we know how to prepare our paperwork. And we want a smooth transaction for you too. We don't want surprises. We want to be proactive. And that communication needs to be up front, right? And sometimes you guys don't know right away either, right? About something. It's like, well, gosh, my buyer didn't, my seller didn't tell me that we're gonna be out of country during the closing, things like that. If we know those things ahead of time, we need to work ahead of time with you. And that's what partnering with a title and escrow company is about. And each transaction is different. So allow us to be a part of that and helping you with every situation you have. And I didn't know if you had any other questions at all for me. So I want to be mindful of your time because there's always a lot of stuff going on. As a last piece, this is a booklet called What to Expect. And for your newer agents, you might like this. It talks about the process. I can make a class out of it. But you can also use this for your first-time home buyers. You might even look through it and say, hey, I'm going to start incorporating that into my presentation. It talks a lot about what we covered, but the last 3 pages talks a little bit about a stress-free signing. When you get towards the end of escrow, there's some tips on there for the signing with your client. And then there's a page on fraud, because it's very prevalent these days. That is why we use a secure portal. Most title companies have a secure portal now, so it keeps your email secure as well. That's also included in there. And we do have a it's firstdam.tv. We actually have a page specifically for a ton of videos. So, and you can share those videos with your buyers, your sellers. There's a video on what is title insurance, these very flyers I went through, buying a home. There's 2 videos in there, part 1 and 2. And included on this TV, you can actually convert, there are videos in there that are converted to 7 different languages as well. So we just want to make sure that we're out there giving you the best tools possible. And if you're unsure of whether I have something, just ask. And if not, I know I'll have a resource to offer you.
Good job.
That's it. Thanks, you guys. A lot of stuff. Yeah, I wasn't sure if I was going to make a whole hour title and escrow, but I wanted to touch base on those few things that maybe might come up. And thank you for asking the questions. Just a quick note for those of you who've been around. Do you know that and it's remote notary? Have you heard that coming? Does anybody know what RON? It's remote online notary.
What?
I just saw that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just
Okay.
saw that email.
Educate us.
Okay, so so it's approved starting January 1st, 2024. It's approved in California. I do have flyers on it. I didn't put them over there because I wanted to talk about it a little bit. And the bill has 2 main changes. So California is now included in doing remote notaries, especially if you have, but there's some rules to that. So it's not going to be, lenders are far from approving a remote notary in California, so that's going to take some time. But there are cases we are using it. So First American, we started remote notaries in other states. We have over 50,000 under our belt now, so we have more in Oklahoma, Tennessee, Florida, big state. And here are the rules. You need to have a valid passport or ID, 5 years worth of credit history, and a U.S. citizen. So those 3 things, in order to do it, you have to have all 3. You have to qualify. It could be, so you've got people who own homes here and they're living in other countries right now and they qualify for all those 3 things. Well, we can do the sign off with them on their camera. As long as we have facial recognition, camera recognition, it can get done. one thing, our notaries in California notaries are not even, haven't done the certification yet. And from what I know, that it might be a year or two before our California notaries even get the certification for it, because it's still so new. But I share it with you because it's going to be the way of the future. It's coming, and there will be instances where it will come in handy. So if you have sellers who are on vacation, they can sign from where they are. And you can be present, if you want to be present on that on camera, you can be present. And they'll include you in the link so you can be present at the remote notary as well. So being creative is important. Like, no, everything's changing, right? So we are slowly going in that direction. And I wanted to share that with you because there might be an instance where it might come in handy for you or your client. The only thing discussion I've had with our escrow team is that when the sellers are signing that grant deed to transfer title, we need to make sure the buyer gives us the right vesting, right? So we need to get the vesting, correct vesting from the buyer, make sure the paperwork is correct. I mean, we can always correct it, but we don't want this to turn into this, pushing to sell, and now we need to correct everything. We're gonna get that vesting from the buyer, make sure it's correct, and then have the seller do the remote notary. That is something up and coming, and I wanted to share it with you.
So you've done it already?
We've done a few. We've done a handful here in our office. We've done a handful. We've had to.
How was it?
Easy. Yeah, it was easy for them. Like I said, we've got it down to a T now that we actually have a department. First American has an actual department that all they do are RON. So we've got the support for it.
Give us examples of when you could use it, because you're saying lenders can't, so that's a big chunk you can't.
A seller, you've got a seller who is traveling, they're on vacation, say they're in
So the seller
Cabo,
can
right?
anywhere, yeah.
Right,
Very
so,
good.
right, and they are a citizen, they have 5 years of credit history, they have a valid ID,
Yeah.
easy to do while they're gone.
Actually,
I close
you find out which notary is approved by you, right?
We have, yes,
That's the bottom.
yes, we have,
The notary's approved.
right, exactly.
That's the simple.
Not
You guys-
California yet.
Yeah, you guys will
Yeah.
all want those right away as soon as California opens the gateway for it.
I know.
But that will be in demand.
California notaries at the moment are approved.
It says, and on this flyer, it says that these changes, they recognize that the commissions for California notaries to perform RONs in California will not be available until the certification is given by the California Secretary of State. And all that's, the technology is still pending for the project to complete.
Out of state. you
Out of
have
states
approved
already.
Notaries in all the
We
states.
do. We have an actual department, that's all they do, with notaries that are already certified. So they're thinking hopefully no later than January 1st, this is 2030. I don't, they've got to get the technology down, but yeah. But we're ready to go. So just something else to think about if we have those rush deals or,
Yeah.
we want to be accommodating as best we can. So that is a newer service that's coming. Okay.
I have a comment and a question. I closed an escrow, my buyer was in India, but there was no loan involved. So.
When was that?
This was last year.
It wasn't January 1 this year. Wasn't available.
Oh.
Yeah.
It is now.
He did sign from India.
Yes, absolutely, you can.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah,
Just not
One more
one.
question. Why is in Southern California escrow is separate from
I know. Leave it to California. Yeah, in it's always been that way, right, Chuck? Southern California, title and escrow are separate. We don't know. I don't even know why.
I think it's all about the money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotta spread it out.
Yes, yeah, and we've actually, the market's definitely been challenging, and we've actually closed one or two escrows. We normally push everything to Southern California just because the disclosures are different, but we're actually closed one or two that are in Southern California, and with the agents from Southern California, you guys are weird up in Northern California. You guys do everything in one. I was like, no, we think the opposite. We think you guys are too separate. So we can get it done, yeah, we just bundle it, so, good question, but yeah, I don't know, we should probably find out why it's separate down there. Right. Well, I appreciate all of you, and you know how to get a hold of me, which I love, and I just, thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you.
Okay.